Hi, welcome to the Vulnerable Scientist podcast. This is your host, Sarah Nyakeri, and she is very excited. So today I had an interview that successfully recorded without losing the recordings with clean feed. And my host is Milcah, and I'm so excited that she came in and we had a very long conversation that was very enriching, and I wouldn't want to cut or edit any parts of the conversation out. So instead of having a very long podcast or very long episode, I'll cut it into 3 and maybe add another one, but I'll cut it into 3. And if you're listening to any of the parts, maybe part 1 will be introduction, part 2 will be the lows, then part 3 will be the highs. If you're listening to any of the parts, please consider to listen to the other parts so that you can get the full context, and it will be better if you listen to them with that succession: introduction, the lows and the highs, and maybe you'll get the full context of her story. Okay, enjoy.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Thanks for inviting me to talk about my highs and lows in research, and thanks for this podcast. So my name is Milcah Kigoni. I am from Nairobi, Kenya. Not born in Nairobi, born in Murang'a, a small place in Kenya. And I am a biochemist by training. So I did my undergrad in KU, Kenyatta University, in biochemistry. And then I did a master's program in biochemistry and bioinformatics. And that's how I joined the world of bioinformatics mainly. And for my master's thesis research, I worked on animal vaccines and predicting a good vaccine candidate based on their genomics. So that was fun. After that, however, because of the struggles of finding a job in bioinformatics during that time, unfortunately, there were not many opportunities for that. There were very few places you could actually work in Kenya at the moment, at that time. So because of that, I looked for internship opportunities just to keep going. And I got an internship with the international IITA, International Tropical Research Institute in Africa. Maybe that's not truly the name, but it's called IITA. And they do research on crops for improvement, like banana, cassava, and other such crops. And I did that for about 6 months. And afterwards, I moved on to a position with Research, which is another research institute that works on crops that grow in arid and semi-arid areas. And I was hired to be a data analysis consultant for breeding programs. And that's how I got into the world of breeding, crop breeding, which was very interesting. So I'd left my background in livestock research, and I started working with crop breeders who, they work on different plant crops and try to improve these crops to adapt to the climatic changes, or just the environments that they are being grown in, to perform better in those, to give high yield, to resist diseases better, or to grow with minimum inputs and yet be highly productive for farmers. And this opportunity was really great. I got to meet so many people, network with so many researchers across Africa and Southeast Asia, and some people also here in the US and Europe, because it was a highly collaborative project that I was working on. And during this time, I got to have that interest in improving crops and crop production for farmers ultimately. And then I got a job in Sweden with a private company that works on genomics and genomics tools, and I worked there for one year and some months, after which I got this PhD opportunity. But while I was working in Sweden, I was also supposed to start a PhD program there. And then COVID came, and the funding for that research was cut. And so that happened, and it was a very frustrating time. So if I'm going to talk about one of my low points, that was one of them in research, just the funding and how, events that occur that you don't think would affect funding that for your project or for your PhD or for your research, that they can actually happen and just have a very direct impact on your job. So that was one of my lowest points. Because I had already started the PhD, I had a very good group of mentors, very supportive, but this happened, and so I started looking for another PhD. But one of the highs that came out of that was the benefit of networking, because how I got to get this PhD that I am working on now is as a result of that. It's networking that I had done years before. People had met years before without knowing that they would have an impact in my future. And, we had been involved in the same project together. And, we worked well. And when they heard that I'm now looking for a PhD opportunity, they were able to point me in the right direction. And I did my applications, and thank God everything went smoothly, and I was able to come here in the US at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and start a PhD program in crop science.
Wow.
Yes.
Is that all in terms of introduction?
Yes, I think that's an introduction to where I am now. That's the journey, a very brief one.
It sounds long to me, coming from my side.
Yes.
Okay. I think just to point out, I didn't realize that you did something related to animals before. Mm-hmm. And you actually did something that I am actually doing right now.
Yes. I think now that's why I connect with your content a lot. I did. I worked on livestock briefly. I was very passionate. We were working on tick-borne diseases. I had an opportunity to go out, meet farmers, talk to them, livestock farmers in Kenya, and it was a very good project. Unfortunately, I would say this is how life goes, and the impact of just changes like availability of funding, availability of jobs, it can change your career direction, and that's exactly what happened. I still care about livestock diseases.
Wow. And I also love that you mentioned about the benefits of networking. These are people that you networked before even you being in Sweden, right?
Yes. Honestly, Sarah, one of the best, my treasures through research has been network. That has paid off more than anything in my research. The people that I've met during networking events or just meetings or just emailing people, and they've played a role here and there in my life. In times when I didn't even think that they will become very important people in my career path. So networking to me is one of the most important things a researcher can do, and being able to keep those networks, keep the conversations going, it's very important, because then when an opportunity arises for something that they know that you're on their mind. And it's the same for me as well, that people that I know, when I'm stuck, say, with a genomics problem, or I need assistance with a certain software that I can use to collect data in the field, the first person that I will come to mind is someone that I know within, that I've connected with, who does that. So I will reach out to them before I put out an advert.
Wow. Wow, I love that point. I know it's not related to this podcast, but I love that you've pointed that out. Okay, yeah. So you want to start with the lows or the highs? I know you've already started. But...
Yes, let's start with the lows so that we end on a high note.
So after the podcast was done, I realized that we didn't talk about what Milcah was doing in depth, and I thought that I could push this last part of the podcast to this introductory part, and you'll enjoy the rest in the other parts of the podcast.
So I'm doing a PhD with Dr. Juan Albelaz. He's a professor here at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and he's also an oat breeder. And we are part of a program called the Small Grains Breeding Team program, and we work on small grains like oat, wheat, triticale, and barley so far. And for my project, we are working on intercropping. We just want to see how can we improve the oat varieties we have here, the oat crop, because it's an important crop, but in the Midwest it's a minor crop because they love corn, maize. Now I can say maize. They love maize and soybean. Those are some of the things. Like I always called it maize all my life, and then I have to say corn and soybean. Okay. Corn and soybean. And then oat is one. It's an alternative crop here, and it's grown for the grain itself, like when you have oatmeal in the morning, or it's grown for forage. So they just plant it, cut it, let us use it for hay, or just graze it. So our target is the farmers who are growing it for forage, and we want to see how we can improve it for them, so that we give them good oat varieties that give them high yield and quality of forage. One thing we noticed, or that has become very popular, is that they intercrop it. So they plant it with a legume like peas, and to improve the quality, because if you add a legume to a grass, you get higher quality of forage. So, but we don't know which of the oats that they are planting is a better candidate to do this, to mix with peas, because plants, species planted together in a space, they compete with each other. Sometimes they complement each other, and we don't know. We don't know how the oats we have here are performing, which ones are better. So the whole goal is to identify those that perform well when they are intercropped, so that we can improve them, and hopefully in the future they can be released and used for this use of forage. So my main goal, personal goal from this PhD, is to learn more about breeding, how to breed, and just all the knowledge around breeding that you need, like genetics, genomics, statistics, crop physiology, crop management, pests, all that. It's a very broad field. I want to gain knowledge in that, and I want to use that knowledge either to provide advice or to actually implement it in a breeding program in the future, where I can apply it to either oats or another crop and improve it. And the reason why I'm interested, so that's why I'm interested in breeding. The reason why I'm interested in intercropping is because back home we have smaller farms. Every time our farms are just getting smaller. So, and we intercrop a lot. It's nothing new. But how can we improve the crops that we plant there, so that we are planting a seed that it is known to do well or better than others in an intercrop system, so that you can get high yield, or it survives diseases or drought better than other seeds in that intercropped system, so that we can promote that practice of intercropping, because it's good in that you can get a lot from a very small piece of land, which is common at home, and you can intercrop different things that will help in the nutrition. Like you have more options on your plate, and that it's good for the soil. so that we are more environmentally sustainable. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I have an amazing advisor called Dr. Juan Albelais, and he's been very helpful in this process. So yeah, and I just finished my first year, learned so much, and so I'll continue with my next year from January.
Okay. So, congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Do you want to start your own podcast? Start with some simple gear that you already have and a quiet space. Simple gear includes a microphone, editing software, and host of your podcast. Simple microphones include the ones on your phones and computers, or a simple recorder, which you can upgrade later. For the editing software, I use Audacity, which is free and simple to use. Buzzsprout, which over 1,000 other fellow podcasters like me use, is one of the podcast hosting providers you can use. Buzzsprout has helped me link my show on every major podcast platform. With the endless number and regularly updated tutorials and good customer service support Buzzsprout offers, my podcasting journey has been made easy. Following the link in the show notes, let Buzzsprout know we sent you, gets you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and helps support our show.